Death Stranding 2 is a majestic package delivery horror apocalypse hiding the combat, stealth, and depth of a new Metal Gear Solid game inside of it. That means there's tons of unnecessarily necessary details and hidden mechanics jammed into it, some of which are useful, some ridiculous, and some just make you go, huh. Like once you have Dollman strapped to your waist, his default function is to just toss him into the air to perform some aerial reconnaissance. But you can also just chuck him right into enemies to inflict a brief stun. Mostly for humiliation, but the tiny stun can give you a bit more time to set up for some stronger attacks. If you smack Dollman into too many things though, the devs did account for this, because he actually gets upset with Sam and directly refuses to be thrown.
Nope, I am not going anywhere. Don't you dare, Sam. I'm still upset with you.
If you missed the director's cut of the first game, you might not know that ramps are useful for more than just vehicles. If you're just plopping around on foot, you can actually run and jump off these ramps and press X in the air to do an extreme jump, and again for a double extreme, which both live up to their name quite accurately. Flying off a ramp completely eliminates fall damage because reasons, but which makes this a powerful traversal tool. You can build a ramp to quickly clear long gaps on foot, get up to stuff without climbing, or build one at the edge of a massive cliff to descend in style unscathed. If you hop onto a floating carrier and send it, this also gets protected from fall damage and has unique trick animations all of its own. Kinda like skateboarding meets rollerblading meets parkour meets prime delivery. Players have already started setting up little trick parks around the map, and by players I mean me here filming for this video. Who remembers the Death Stranding 1 ski resort? Something you could miss is you have a flashlight on your weapon which you can toggle on and off by aiming and pressing square. When you fully expend the ammo of a weapon, if you enter its aim mode with L2, you'll see a prompt to press D-pad down to offload it, which will drop it and auto-switch to the next weapon in your inventory if you have one. However, even fully depleted weapons get freely restocked with ammo whenever you enter your private room, so it might be useful to keep them on you instead. In the Weapon/Tools menu, don't miss the input listed at the bottom, R3 to set as default. Then whenever you bring up that menu, the defaulted item will be the first thing that appears. So that means a quick hold of D-pad right followed by X is always going to swap right to my preferred weapon regardless of what I'm currently holding. Something I don't see too many people using is the built-in cover mechanic. If you get close to an edge or a waist-high wall, you'll see a prompt pop up to L2 to pop out. This also works from the crouch position. If you want to immediately equip something that's on the ground, hold either L2 or R2 near it to hold the container in your hands, then press D-pad right to instantly whip it out as your primary tool. If you have multiple ladders in your inventory, you'll see a prompt to press triangle when you deploy one to attach an additional ladder, doubling its length. I wanted to test this and see if they're long enough to actually get up on top of one of these larger facilities, and if you get real close, yes, these double-stacked ladders can get you up there. That lets you get up on top of the monorail system, so if you just want to hoof it on foot long distance while staying above all the humans, BTs, or surprise pebbles, there you go. Also, keep in mind that the wheeling mechanic I mentioned in my previous video is a great way to travel along ladders with the Tri-Cruiser, since you're limiting it to just one wheel of contact. Slapping a shock absorber to your backpack will funnel any received electric damage to automatically charge Sam's battery. But you can trigger this yourself if you bust out one of those voltage rod weapons, which can be thrown. Simply aim one down at your feet and that'll shock you a couple of times, building back charge of your battery if you have that shock absorber equipped. Multiple shock absorbers will stack this effect, so just one of these rods can generate a good chunk of battery if you have no other safer means to do so. Those enemies you keep coming across that wield electric rods, you can use the ones that they drop in a pinch to throw at your feet, get a bit of juice back if you need it. Equipping exoskeletons will drain your battery pretty quick, along with special attacks from the electric mittens. They'll be smitten. If you have an odd assortment of materials, like here, I have a bunch of metal in various sizes, these can take up a lot of vertical space above your backpack. However, if you hold D-pad up and select Auto Arrange Cargo, this function not only optimizes the stacking of your cargo, it also combines multiple material containers together. A simple press of Auto Arrange didn't just change my weight, but it did open up a lot more space by changing those multiple smaller containers into a few larger ones. After you get to the animal shelter outpost, you'll be able to sneak up behind animals to subdue them and gently cram them into a unique container. However, instead of risking the sneak up behind them, you can also just shoot them. Most all of the weapons dynamically change their ammo type according to what they're fired at, so these will just knock them out. If you lug these captured animals to the animal shelter depot, you can turn them in like normal cargo. Then around the shelter, animals you and other players have caught will populate around, creating your own kind of zoo. Over time, your animals will leave behind nice little chiral poops, which you can collect to get some free crystals. Also, a random detail I just stumbled on, echidnas have a built-in hazard if you happen to walk over them. Sam will momentarily limp in pain from stepping directly on their quills. Even having boots on doesn't protect from the puncture. If you tap R1 out of a sprint, you'll do a slide, which can be used to sweep the legs out from under enemies. A simple kick will then initiate a nap. The slide is also surprisingly good for traversal since you can use it on slopes to gain downward momentum. This will grind down your boots faster than normal, but those don't really cost that much to craft and you can have that backup pair attached to your boot clip, so I say worthwhile trade-off for this kind of speed. If you don't have a floating carrier to use, there's no vehicles in sight, sliding is always equipped. You can also aim and shoot during the slide animation if you feel like being sassy. If you hold L2 and R2 then press X in any direction, you'll find this quick evade mechanic that can be used to bob and weave around incoming attacks. You can also hold L2 and R2 while pressing forward and X to do short leaps that counter uneven terrain. These longer steps will sap your stamina pretty fast, but it can make some topography a bit safer. You can do that same thing into enemies too, bashing into them for a brief stun. Something else I kinda covered in my last video, but if you time and hold L2 or R2 right before you get hit, you can completely block incoming melee damage, and a punch immediately after will trigger a counter with a more powerful stun effect. And nap kick. Sometimes you'll find yourself up against a steep cliff, but you're in a vehicle that you want to keep and you don't have a ramp to deploy or want to drive all the way around to find a different path. If you just launch yourself off the edge, it doesn't end too well for your SAM or for the vehicle you were driving. But if you're cruising fast enough, you can actually eject out of vehicles and roll, which continues the forward momentum of the vehicle. If you practice the timing, you can use this to send vehicles off cliffs, which will land entirely undamaged. This actually makes sense in the game's universe, because any human infected with dooms, their presence will automatically drain the nearby Ka emanated from the beach, which acts as a protective invisible placenta shield that surrounds all the superconductive technology connected through the chiral network. I actually just made all that up. If enough players keep using the same path through an area indicated by the blue footprints you'll sometimes see, over time it'll eventually wear down into an actual dirt road path in your game. This built-in system can also clear out some of the rocks and foliage that might have been in the way. This next one is more of a personal recommendation if immersing yourself is important to you. If you zoom in with L1, you can then press triangle to entirely hide the HUD. That lets you travel in a nice, clean, first-person perspective, which I'm honestly surprised by how much this alters your appreciation of the finer details in the world, the game's lighting, and vibe of embodying Sam. For example, at this point in my playthrough I've entered the home base floating ship dozens of times, but this one time I approached it in first person and just took it all in. The attention to detail everywhere in this game kinda blew my mind. If you're accident prone to splatting on your face, there's an upgrade in the skill tree called Instant Cargo Binding, which will automatically protect your gear from falling off of you if you fall down. When it's triggered, these bright blue bindings will quickly pop up to keep your stack intact. Just like how you can equip your strand rope, look at your backpack and bind all this stuff to make it more secure. You can also do that same thing to cargo you have stacked on your floating carrier. The first time you fall into red water with a lot of packages, you'll be glad that you did this. Here's a random thing that maybe you guys can shed some light on, since I can't find any info online about it. But for some reason you can mash the right section of the touchpad to give likes to cutscenes every time the camera cuts to a new angle. It doesn't seem like these likes get added to your likes profile, so are these likes kind of like providing metadata directly to Kojima or something? I don't know. My theory, Kojima's personal phone dings every single time someone likes any cutscene. Earned it. And now, we have reached the last random detail in this video, but disclaimer, if you're not into wiggly piles of spider-looking things, get out of here right now. I'm Alex and thanks for watching. Okay, here we go. If you wade through these goopy tar spiders, they can not only latch onto the top of your head, but they can also jump directly on the camera lens. Which has me now conflicted. Who is the camera operator this entire time? What's their name? Why are they physically in the universe following Sam everywhere he goes? I have so many additional questions. Overthinking it? Perhaps. Alright, you made it all the way to the end of this, so let me know which of these were the most... Well, sir, I did not know that. Or if you knew 100% of these already, I owe you a cookie if I ever meet you. Death Stranding 2 is honestly the most addicted I've been to an open world game in quite some time. It's actually all I want to be doing right now, but I'm curious what the lovers and the haters of the original think of the sequel. Let me know. Okay, I have more deliveries that are not going to ship themselves, so I'm out of here. I'll see you next time.